Learning is not the product of teaching. Learning is the product of activity of the learners. Hello everyone. We are Team Arvind Srinivas from IT branch. We have made this project under the guidance of Dr. Anup Tiwari sir. My name is Akshay Tikariha.
My name is Divya Agarwal.
My name is Divyakutar.
My name is Daksh Parak.
My name is Gargi Dhale.
My name is Ashwas Gupta. Arvind Srinivas, co-founder and CEO of Perplexity AI, is an influential figure revolutionizing online search. An alumnus at UC Berkeley and IIT Madras, his academic and professional background is exceptional, including research roles at DeepMind and OpenAI. This deep expertise is what allows him to lead his team with authority and effectively guide his company's product roadmap. Arvind Srinivas is spearheading Perplexity AI's mission to challenge traditional search giants by providing direct sourced answers, all driven by his vision to make information more accessible.
In a field often filled with hype, Srinivas projects a calm, thoughtful, and credible demeanor. He avoids making exaggerated claims and instead communicates with clarity and intellectual honesty. This has not only helped build trust among users, but also with investors and wider tech communities.
While many were focusing on building general purpose chatbots, Srinivas identified a specific high value use case, reliable answer engine. By focusing on this niche early on, Perplexity AI established itself as a leader in the space before large companies could fully pivot their strategies.
He has a relentless focus to make a product that users could actually trust. By focusing on features such as citation and accuracy from the start, he made a product that users realize that they can actually use in their real world use cases. This differentiates Perplexity AI from other black box AI models and fosters organic growth.
Srinivas is not just building another AI model. He is driven by the clear and incredibly ambitious vision of challenging and redefining the multi-trillion-dollar search market dominated by Google. This compelling vision energizes his team and attracts top talents and investments.
Taking on an established giant like Google requires immense courage. Srinivas has demonstrated a willingness to enter the highly competitive arena and has shown the resilience to stay focused on his long term vision despite the immense pressure and challenges. With these words, we would like to talk about secrets to learn faster, backed by neuroscience.
I'm angry. And I'm angry because I wish I knew this when I was younger. You see, I'm a neuroscientist and a lecturer. As a neuroscientist, I study the brain and the network of nerves that span out in the body. And as a lecturer, I teach the next generation of healthcare professionals, the people who will go on to heal, teach, and care for others. And look, I see some students struggle with their learning, especially the older ones. But it's not their fault. We know we don't get taught how to learn. We just kind of expect it to happen automatically. And I think the worst curse of all really is that it gets harder to learn as we age. But what if I told you that there are things we can do to learn faster and more efficiently? I'm going to take you through the neuroscience behind the 6 critical ingredients that can help you learn faster: attention, alertness, sleep, repetition, breaks, and mistakes. Now, first things first, how do we actually learn? We need something called neuroplasticity to happen. Neuroplasticity is a scientific term that means the brain's ability to physically change in response to experience. So when we're learning something, whether it's new information or a skill, tiny connections called synapses form between neighboring neurons in the brain. And the more we do that thing, whether it's studying a topic or practicing movement, the more robust those connections become and the better we get at doing it. What you're looking at here are 2 neurons I filmed in a petri dish connecting. Actually, this was a petri dish I was about to throw away, but I noticed they were about to connect, so I quickly took this video. Now these incredible hand-like structures you can see are called growth cones, and every neuron has one. They actively sense the environment around them, guiding each of the 86 billion neurons in your brain to find the correct place to connect. For example, from here to here or here to here. Now this is what you're seeing isn't just learning. it doesn't represent learning itself. What it represents is how our brain wires itself during development. When that wiring process goes wrong, or when it doesn't happen in the usual way, we can end up with issues involve learning and memory. Now kids, they're like sponges, right? They just seem to need to be exposed to things and they pick them up effortlessly. Languages, sports, instrument, it all seems to stick. The learning just happens. And we often meet people who seem incredibly talented and we think they must have some sort of magical that the rest of us don't. But what if I told you that's probably not true? It mostly comes down to practice, perseverance, and when in development, they started learning that skill. So the earlier the better. People like Serena Williams or Bethany weren't born with their abilities. They practiced consistently, and most of them actually started by age 5. So, really, our ability to learn begins to go downhill after age 5. But it certainly gets harder through childhood and our teenage years. And once we hit our mid 20s, it gets exponentially harder to learn. But the good news is that there are things you can do about it because there are certain ingredients attention, alertness, sleep, repetition, breaks, and even mistakes that can make your learning better. Let's go through them. Attention. If your brain isn't paying attention, you're not learning. Attention is like a spotlight. Whatever you shine it on, your brain strengthens. It releases chemicals that certain tag connections as important. That's how your brain knows what to remember and what to forget. Alertness. Your brain learns the best when it's alert but not anxious. That perfect balance, that state of curiosity and engagement, floods your brain with dopamine and noradrenaline chemical that prime it to absorb and remember. That's why emotional, meaningful, or exciting experiences are so easy to recall. Your brain literally marks them as significant. Sleep. Sleep is not just rest, it's replay. While you sleep, your brain replays and strengthens the connections you formed during the day. If you skip sleep, you skip the process that locks new knowledge into long term memory. Repetition. Repetition builds strength, but spaced repetition builds mastery. When you repeat something at spaced intervals, your brain gets multiple chances to reinforce the same pathway. And that's how information sticks for good. Breaks. Your brain isn't designed for endless focus. Taking breaks allows your neural circuits to recover, process, and consolidate. That's why your best ideas often happen in the shower or on a walk. Your brain is quietly sorting information in the background. Mistakes. Mistakes are not failures, they are feedback. Every time you make an error and correct it, your brain releases chemical that helps strengthen the correct connection. In fact, your brain learns more when you make and fix a mistake than when you get it right the first time. So, yes, learning gets harder with age, but your brain never stops changing. It just needs the right environment. So, if I could go back and tell my younger self one thing, it would be this: learning isn't about being gifted or young or lucky. It's about understanding how your brain works and giving it the condition it needs to grow. Because neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to change, doesn't disappear with age. It just waits for you to wake it up.
Activating our body's fight or flight system, also known as sympathetic nervous system, results in the release of hormones like adrenaline and noradrenaline. These chemicals prepare our body to deal with challenges. Our heart beats faster, breathing quickens, and our brain becomes more alert and focused. It's basically our body's natural alarm system helping us perform better when something important or stressful is happening. Now, apart from facing actual danger, what are some ways we can safely activate this system and increase alertness? Well, one of the best and healthiest way is exercise, whether it's running, swimming, or even a quick set of push-ups. Exercise triggers the sympathetic nervous system and boosts blood flow to the brain. This is why we often feel more awake and focused after a workout, not tired. Another interesting way is through breathing techniques such as Wim Hof method. This involves controlled hyperventilation followed by breath holding, which stresses the body and increases adrenaline level. It might sound unusual, but research shows that it boosts alertness and improves mental resilience. Then there's cold exposure. Ending your shower with a blast of cold water is a simple way to wake up your nervous system. That sudden shock of cold water forces your body to react. Your heart rate increases, your breathing deepens, and you instantly feel awake and energized. And yes, mild stress can be beneficial too. When you experience a small stressor like a short deadline or a mild challenge, your body releases just enough adrenaline to help you focus. Studies shows that learning right after a mild stressor can actually improve memory formation. So if you do something a little challenging before studying, like solving a puzzle or even a brisk walk, it can help your brain remember better. But of course, there is a limit. Too much stress or chronic stress can do the opposite. Long term stress physically changes part of the brain, particularly the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory and learning. So, if you have been stressed for a long time, be kind to yourself. It's not just in your head. Your brain really does need rest and recovery. Now, another way to enhance alertness is by using substances like caffeine. Caffeine blocks the endocyne, the chemical that makes you feel sleepy, and increases dopamine level, which helps with motivation and focus. Having caffeine before a learning task or just being a regular coffee drinker has shown to improve both alertness and memory. But moderation is the key. Too much caffeine can increase anxiety and disrupt sleep, which in turn hurts learning. Speaking of sleep, it's one of the most powerful tools for learning and memory. When we sleep, our brain consolidates the information we have learned throughout the day and even clears out waste products that have built up while we were awake. So, pulling an all nighter might help you finish your work, but it actually reduces how much you remember the next day. Good sleep is like hitting the save button for everything you have learned. It's also interesting to know that our alertness naturally rises and falls during the day due to something called an ultradian rhythm. About every 90 minutes, our brain goes through cycles of higher and lower alertness. Within each cycle, we have a 20 to 30 minutes window of peak alertness. This means that it's completely normal to have times when your attention drops. It's your body's rhythm, not a lack of discipline. If you plan your study or work sessions in 90-minute blocks, you can actually take advantage of those natural peaks in your performance. Finally, remember that balance is the key. We don't want to live in constant fight or flight mode, but we want to activate it at right times before learning, before performing, or when we need the burst of energy and attention. So, in short, a little bit of stress sharpens you, too much stress breaks you. The trick is learning how to switch your body on when you need the focus and switch it off when you need rest. That's how you truly master alertness, performance, and learning.
So, first things first, if we really want to learn something, we need to pay attention, right? Attention isn't just a random thing our brain does, it's actually one of the most important functions we have. Let's try something. Close your eyes for a moment and focus on the feeling between your feet and the floor. Suddenly, you might notice things you hadn't before. Maybe the texture of your socks, how tight your shoes feel, or how firm the ground is beneath you. Just a second ago, you weren't aware of any of that. And that little moment shows something powerful. We can choose what to pay attention to and how much of it we get. Now, science has shown that when we are fully focused on a task, when we are really logged in, we retain that information much better, especially in the long term. But here's the tricky part. Until just recently, like in all of human history, we have never had to work this hard to stay focused. Let's be honest. How often do you find yourself reading a paragraph or replaying a video because your mind wandered off for a second, right? We all do it. That's because our brain were designed to focus on one thing at a time. But today, with constant notifications, scrolling, and switching between apps, we are training our minds to jump around non-stop. When you scroll through your phone, you're seeing a dozen totally unrelated things: news headlines, ads, memes, cat videos, all in a few seconds. And that rapid fire switching actually creates measurable attention deficits. Now, I'm not saying social media causes ADHD, but research does show that teens who use their phones for over an hour a day start to show these small but real drops in attention spans. So, the next time you catch yourself scrolling mindlessly, try to put the phone down just a little sooner. Even a small break helps your brain reset. Alright, so how do we improve our attention? Well, in the long term, one of the best ways is through something called focused attention meditation. It's simply the practice of training your mind to come back again and again to one single thing. It sounds simple, but it's powerful. And if you want a short term boost, something that works almost immediately, you don't even have to meditate. You just need to move. Yes, I know, we always hear exercise more from doctors. But this time, there's a twist. Exercise doesn't just keep your body healthy, it literally changes your brain. It can increase the size of the part of your brain that handles learning and memory. It helps your brain grow new cells, and studies show it improves memory, sharpening your ability to think and process information. And here's the coolest part: just 20 minutes of moderate exercise, not a hardcore workout, not sprinting marathons, but a simple jog or brisk walk, can improve your attention for up to 2 hours afterward. So, before you sit down to study, try this. Go for a quick jog, do a few jumping jacks. Even better, do something that challenges your balance. If you are at work, run up and down the stairs a few times. There are tons of little ways to wake your brain up. Next, we have alertness. Now, this one's simple. In order to learn, you've got to be alert, right? It's not rocket science. But here's the thing: if you're not fully alert, if your brain is half distracted, you're going to have a much harder time keeping that information than to a person next to you. So, attention gets you focused, and alertness keeps you there. And together, they build the foundation for real learning.
So, for example, sleep resets our immune system, it resets our metabolism, it resets our emotional control, and it even gets rid of the waste that builds up in our brain over the course of the day. But sleep is actually critical for memory consolidation, for turning short term memories into long term ones. There is a particular part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is essential for learning and memory. Throughout the day, as you go about your life, your hippocampus is just like a diary, keeping track of what you do, what you learn, and what you experience. So, if I were to ask you what you were doing before you eat down to listen to this talk, you are using your hippocampus to recall that information. But the hippocampus only holds information temporarily. When you sleep, all those short term memories are transferred or flooded off to other parts of the brain, mainly the cortex, where they become long term memories. So, if you don't sleep, you can't properly turn short term memories into long term ones. And that's why sleep is so important for learning. Pulling an all nighter before an exam night might seem productive, but it's actually the worst thing you can do for your brain. You might cram a lot in, but your brain won't relax it in the long run. So, here's what you should really do: make sure you prioritize your sleep before you study so you are more alert and focused, and after you study so your brain has time to consolidate what you have learned into lasting memory. Now, there's an old saying that practice makes a man perfect, and here's what actually a lot of neuroscience behind that. Repetition is a key when it comes to learning. And it's not enough to hear or see something once and expect to remember it forever. Think about the way, just like exercising builds muscle, repetitive patterns of exercising or doing something build stronger connections in your brain. Every time you practice, you are reinforcing the neural pathways associated with the skill or piece of knowledge, making it easier to recall and perform over time. This process, called neuroplasticity, is how your brain literally rewires itself as you learn. You are forming new connections between neurons, building new pathways, and strengthening old ones. But here's the thing, and that takes energy. It requires fatty acids, proteins, and a lot of cellular work. Your brain won't invest that energy to create and strengthen these new connections if it thinks the activity is unimportant or something you'll only do once. That's why repetition matters so much. It's like you are telling your brain at a cellular level, hey, this is important. This keeps showing up in my life. Let's make the thing easier next time. So, through repetition and practice, your brain decides, alright, this is something I need to do efficiently. And over time, that skill, that knowledge, or that habit becomes second nature. So, if you want to learn effectively, whether it's studying for a test, learning a new instrument, practicing a new language, remember these two key things. First, sleep well and repeat often. Because real learning doesn't happen just when you are awake and focused, it happens later quietly. When you sleep, when your brain is connecting the dots, strengthening pathways, and turning today's experience into tomorrow's knowledge.
So, what you should do? Repeat whatever you are trying to learn as many times as you can during your study session. Make sure to use the spacing technique. This simply means spreading your learning across several days instead of doing it all in one sitting. When you study the same topic on different days, your brain has time to strengthen those new neural connections and store information more effectively in long term memory. Research shows that two shorter sessions on separate days produce much stronger learning than spending the same time amount of studying in one long block. Every time you revisit the topic after a gap, your brain treats it as both familiar and slightly new, which helps reinforce and solidify what you have learned. Interestingly, sometimes we can learn something in just one go. This is known as one trial learning. In psychology and neuroscience, it usually happens when there's a powerful emotional component attached to the experience, something that makes us extremely happy, deeply sad, or especially afraid. There's a strong biological reason for that. When you experience something intense, your brain labels it as important for survival. It records the detail, what you saw, heard, or felt, so that you will know how to react if you face a similar situation again or how to avoid it completely. This mechanism helps us learn quickly from emotional experiences, but when it goes wrong, it can lead to conditions such as post traumatic stress disorder, where the brain stores those memories too vividly and replays them uncontrollably. Now, let's talk about breaks because they are as important as learning itself. Taking break is not wasted time. It is actually when some of the most important brain work happens. There are too many reasons why breaks are crucial. The first is that they give your brain a chance to replay and consolidate what you have just learned. This happens subconsciously. For example, if you were practicing a short piano sequence and then took even a 10-second break, your brain would automatically replay that same pattern internally, up to 20 times faster than you actually played it. This mental replay helps to strengthen those neural circuits. Expanding the rest to 10 or 20 minutes makes the effect more powerful, especially if you spend that time quietly, take a short nap, or do a round of non sleep deep rest. And it's important to avoid distraction like your phone because scrolling or multitasking interrupts the brain's natural consolidation process. The second reason breaks are important is because newly learned information is unstable right after learning. In those early moments, the memory traces in your brain are still forming. And if you start learning something similar too soon, you can disrupt or even erase what you have just learned. This is called retroactive interference. In children, memories stabilize fairly quick, within a few minutes, but in adults, this can take up to an hour or even longer. That's why it's smart to take at least 10-20 minutes break after finishing a study session and to wait at least an hour before learning something similar. During that time, you can do a light or routine task that don't require deep focus. And if possible, continue the same topic on a different day to give your brain even more time to strengthen those connections. In summary, effective learning is not about how long you study, it's about how to study. Repeat what you are trying to learn, space your sessions across multiple days and take meaningful breaks that allows your brain to rest and replay the information. Engage emotionally with what you have learning, connect it to real life examples and let your brain recover between sessions. When you use these techniques, repetition, spacing and rest, your brain to learn smarter. No, just not just harder. You will find that information stick longer, feels easier to recall, and becomes part of your longer term knowledge. So remember, study with focus, rest with intention, and let your brain do the magic in between.
Next, we have mistakes. And I know making mistakes is terrifying. It's really scary. But here's something you might not know. There's actually a biological reason behind that fear. That feeling of anxiety and stress you get when you mess something up, it's not just emotion, it's a signal from your brain. It serves a really important purpose. When you make a mistake, your brain releases a special set of chemicals called neuromodulators, things like acetylcholine. At the same time, you get an increase in activity in your brain's focused attention networks. That combination, the sharp focus, the uneasy feeling, is your brain's way of saying, hey, you just made a mistake. You need to adjust, you need to improve, and become more efficient. In that moment, your brain opens up for what scientists call a window for neuroplasticity. That means your brain becomes extra ready to absorb and learn whatever comes next. But here's the problem: if you make a mistake, feel anxious, and just walk away, two things happen. First, you don't actually learn what you're trying to learn. And second, you're training yourself to avoid failure. Over time, that makes you less able to cope with it. So, what should you do instead? You should set yourself up for a little bit of failure. Seriously, if you're studying, quiz yourself before you feel you're ready. Don't wait until you think you've mastered everything. If you're learning something physical, say soccer, don't just kick the ball straight at the goal every time. Change the angle, make it harder, and allow yourself to miss a few shots. Because every time you make a mistake, you're releasing those neuromodulators that actually enhance your attention and help your brain rewire. And when you finally get it right, your brain rewards you by releasing dopamine, the feel good chemical. Dopamine makes you feel proud, keeps you motivated, and strengthens the memory of what you just did correctly. So, either way, whether you mess up or succeed, your brain wins. That's why turning your learning process into a game can be so powerful. It's a win win for your brain. So, the next time you make a mistake, don't see that anxiety as a bad thing. Lean into it. Keep going. Because that uncomfortable feeling, that's your brain's way of helping you be your best. It's helping you become better than the person you were yesterday. Now, as you can see, I'm not angry anymore. I'm still a little nervous, but that's okay. Because by understanding how the brain works, I've learned that all of us have the keys to unlock our potential, to learn faster, remember more deeply, and perform better. And those keys are attention, alertness, sleep, repetition, breaks, and yes, mistakes. So the next time you sit down to learn something new, get rid of distractions, increase your attention and alertness. Maybe throw a little bit of exercise or movement. Practice the thing you're trying to learn as many times as you can in that session, and repeat it again on another day. And don't forget to prioritize sleep in between, because that's when your brain takes everything you have practiced and turns it into long term memory. Finally, embrace your mistakes. Take breaks. Give your brain the time it needs to rest, reset, and rewire. Even a 10 to 20-minute break after learning helps your brain solidify what it's just taken in. Your brain will thank you for it. And now, I want to thank you for your attention. I hope today you didn't just learn something new. I hope you learned how to learn. Thank you.
Of our video is 6 ways to learn faster backed by neuroscience. Being college students who are learning so many different things every day, this was the most relevant topic for us, so we chose this video. Arvind Srinivas, the CEO of Perplexity AI, is a role model of our generation. Arvind Srinivas is a role model because he turned his deep curiosity for knowledge into groundbreaking research in artificial intelligence. From working at top research labs like OpenAI and DeepMind to founding Perplexity AI, which now competes with Google at global stage, he shows how passion and learning can lead to global impact. His goal to make information accessible and accurate for everyone reflects his vision to democratize knowledge. Despite his success, he stays humble and communicates complex ideas with simplicity. His journey inspires us to be curious, bold, and purposeful in using technology to help others. Working for this project was a new and exciting experience for us, as this was the first group project of our college life. Shooting and learning together taught us many things about teamwork and time management. Bringing all the team members together at the same time has been a bit of challenge, as everyone has different prior commitments and schedules. Arranging video shooting equipment was a bit of a hassle too, but we did it together nonetheless. The most enjoyable part was laughing with everyone looking at the bloopers of the video. Discussing the script and conversation was an engaging experience for all of us. The things that we learned from each other are dedication and the mantra of work smart, not hard. We also learned coordination with each other. The skills that I identified in myself are understanding of camera wrapping angles. I also understood the importance of body language to elevate the video. Through this experience, we learned the art of convincing people and securing their approval for the chosen location. We gained practical experience in handling the camera and learned important techniques of framing and visual composition. Thank you.
ये बैठे बैठे मजे उठा रहा है, ये देख पीछे कुछ कर नहीं रहा.
With authority and effectively lead.
अरे भाई तू, भाई जूता होता है ना वो मार.
Reliable answer engine by the
भाई माइक कौन देगा उसको? तुम ही रखोगे? And this keeps showing.
अबे ये क्या है?
Learning is
भाई तुम इधर क्या देख रहे हो? उधर देखो ना स्क्रीन पे.
Hello, hello, mic check. Hello.
उसने बहुत तेज बढ़ा दी भाई, वो तो इतनी तेज भाग रहा है कि मैं बोलूँ तेज।
हो गया बस।